now present For the Record with Neil Heinen.
A conversation with Madison School Board President Gloria Reyes is next on For the Record. Thanks for joining us. I'm Neil Heinen. 2020 is an extremely important year for Madison's relationship with its public schools and thus for the elected school board. The transition to a new superintendent creates opportunities to re-examine the performance of our schools and the community's investment in them. With elections this spring and Superintendent Matthew Gutierrez starting work this summer, new relationships will be forged. A number of school district policies will be scrutinized, and of course there are two very important referendums likely. It's a lot, and to help us sort through it all, I welcome to For the Record Madison School Board President Gloria Reyes. The Executive Director of Building and Administrative Services, Chad Wieze, will be joining us later in the show to talk about the referendums. But welcome, Gloria. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you for having us.
So, you know, I'm curious. It's been 5.5 years now since we've gone through this process. And I mean, it puts the school board in a really kind of important point, you know, in its work. How would you describe how the school boards function during this transition?
You know, we're strong. We are, it's amazing the community support that we've gotten through this transition. New board members, the most diverse school board in history. Yeah. And we are really poised to move the needle on all the challenges and opportunities that MMSD is in right now. And I think that's because each and every one of us are rooted in community. And so along with the support of the community, a strong administrative staff that Superintendent Jen Cheatham left, a leadership team, and hiring interim Superintendent Jane Belmore, who has done this work before, has really kept us on track and consistent, and has really balanced being a new board. And I think bringing that community perspective, a very strong board, a very diverse board, along with a very experienced and knowledgeable, confident leadership team and administrative staff, and with Jane Belmore's superintendent, we're really on track.
There's always a certain amount of tension between a superintendent who is hired by a school board and the school board. I mean, I think certainly towards the end of Jen's tenure, the relationship seemed relatively smooth compared to some, that both the administration and the school board were moving in the same direction. And yet as soon as she left, as you know, there was a lot of conversation and some questions about policies that Jen had put into place, some questions for the school board. What was the conversation like as a school board for, all right, how do we move forward? What are our priorities moving forward?
Yeah, we had to really just face it and move through it, right? Recognizing that a lot of the policies and the practices were really best intentions, right? To acknowledge our commitment to develop an anti-racist school district, focusing on Black excellence, right? And we're not always going to get things right, particularly when we're facing challenges of race, right? And so we recognize that, and I think this board was really acknowledging and really pushed ourselves to think, well, what is the best practice and policies that we need to develop moving forward for all of our students, staff, and teachers?
I mean, I would assume that the strategic framework will not exist in its current form anymore, right? I mean, that's so tied to the superintendent.
Yeah, I'm not. That is something that you mean when the new superintendent comes on board? I mean, I think that's going to be an opportunity for Superintendent Gutierrez to examine and look at, engage community, engage teachers and staff and administration. Something that he was really focused on, though, and really commended the community and the school district was its focus on Black excellence.
Well,
achievement.
And I know that you and he are going to have to work all of these things out.
Yes.
But, you know, elements of the strategic framework, the community schools initiative, the behavior education plans, the Black excellence. I mean, there were some really important themes. Language, right? The whole language in the schools issue. Those are all really dynamic conversations right now.
Yes. And we'll continue that. And I think it is a perfect time to evaluate. Dr. Gutierrez really talked about assessing, evaluate what's working, how to implement appropriately to bring student voice, bring teachers' voice and staff voice to implementation and to the development of these programs. And many of our candidates talked about, we're doing a lot all at once.
Yeah.
And how do we manage all that, right? And sometimes it becomes, because we're moving so fast, we feel a sense of urgency that we are developing programs and moving steps forward really quick. Yeah. And I think it's a really good time for us to pause, and this is what this transition has allowed us to do, really pause, examine, all right, listen to our professionals within our administration and our staff, and that's going to be an opportunity for Dr. Gutierrez to come in and continue to do that.
Yeah, I think it's just the nature of our civic dialogue today that the negative tends to get more attention than the positive.
Yes.
However, there does seem to be a considerable amount of turmoil within the community. There are parents and teachers who are talking about the safety of our schools, about relationships with the administration, about a lot of elements that I just think raise some anxiety about our schools. How would you, as the school board president, describe the state of our schools right now?
I think that you're right. We do focus on the negative. Public safety, though, is really one of our priorities. Safety in our schools is a priority. We cannot, we have to ensure safe environments for our children, make sure our parents feel safe and confident that they're sending their kids to a safe environment. And that is one of our #1 priorities. It is a holistic community problem, right? It is, we are a microcosm of what's happening out in our community. And so we have to really bring in our partners, our city, our county partners, in developing strategies on how to tackle the problem of safety in our schools. It's acknowledging the problem, and we do have a challenge. We are not alone. We have school districts across the country, smaller jurisdictions, larger jurisdictions who are dealing with the same challenges.
Sure.
And we just need to continue to work with our national partners, our local partners in approaching this, right? Not only from the physical facilities perspective, but then also mental health, behavior, all that stuff is part of safety in our schools. And as board president, I'm committed to that.
Well, and you worked in the police department,
right?
And you worked in the mayor's office,
right?
I mean, you bring those perspectives. Are you comfortable with the collaboration between those three very important entities around our kids and our schools?
I think we need to do more.
Okay.
We are. I think with community schools, I think with our really focus on youth and crime in our community, with our partnership with the county, with our city, I think we are really moving the needle and moving forward and identifying those students who are causing and who are part of the majority of the challenges in our schools. Right, and how can we support them? We don't want to lose them, and so we are moving the needle on that. I think we have to do more, and we have to improve those partnerships.
Certainly there's a governor now who understands these issues,
yes.
I think a little bit differently than the former governor, but still there's a legislature that has not always been friendly to public education, and as we just saw with the vice president here talking about school choice, you know, schools continue to be a political football. How does this school board and the new superintendent kind of change the narrative to keep our community invested in our public schools?
Yeah, I think it is really being grounded in our values. right? This community historically has supported our public schools, and we need to continue that. We value our public schools, and despite what is happening and the changes in our community, we need to continue to invest, and we've done that, right? With state funding being reduced over the years in Walker's administration, our community has come through and has supported our public schools, and we need to continue to do that. It's very important, and it's not easy, right? But we know as a community, our businesses understand that really the resiliency and the strength of a community, right, is the foundation of our public schools. Yep. And we need to continue to believe in that and invest in our children in ways that they stay here, they continue to thrive, right? They are able to and give to the economy, get jobs and become employed, and that's what this community is about.
Well, once again, citizens are going to be asked to think about their investment in the schools, and in particular the facilities that we have, a lot of them aging facilities.
Yes.
So we'll bring Chad Wieze up to talk about
definitely.
that, and join Gloria, Reyes, and me when we come back on For the Record right after this.